Hello students, today let us study about mycorrhiza as biofertilizer, wherein which we are going to study about arbuscular mycorrhiza, how it can be used as biofertilizer in detail. Before going into the production of the mycorrhizal biofertilizer, let us study what these mycorrhiza are. As the name indicates, mycorrhiza. Myco means a fungi. Rhiza, roots. The fungi which has been associated with the roots of higher plants. They are called as mycorrhiza. Mycorrhiza has been found to be associated symbiotically with that of the roots of higher plants. The main role of this mycorrhiza is the help in improving the uptake of the nutrition from the soil environment. Especially they help in mobilization of the nutrients, especially NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, even the iron. Iron content can be mobilized from the soil, that is from the rhizosphere soil, into the root system. That helps in increasing the uptake of the nutrition from the soil by the plants. Mycorrhiza plays a major role in plant nutrition, soil microenvironment. Mycorrhizal spores germinate when it comes in contact with that of a plant's root. It forms a hyphae which create a symbiotic association which helps in increasing the plant's ability to fix the uptake the nutrition, or as well as it also improves the uptake of the water, so that it leads to the improving the plant performance. Mycorrhizal fungi increases the surface absorption area of the roots. Because of the association of this mycorrhiza, the surface area of the absorption of the root increases to 100 to 1000 times than that of a normal root. Hence, this mycorrhiza plays a major role in increasing the nutrient uptake, not only by increasing the surface absorption area of the root, but also releases certain powerful enzyme into the soil, so that it helps in dissolution of the hard to capture nutrients. There are certain metals, say for example iron, or for example zinc, and also certain phosphates. The insoluble phosphates can be made soluble by producing such kind of the substance by this mycorrhiza, so that the mobilization of such nutrients present in the soil improves because of the association of this mycorrhiza. So overall, mycorrhiza is a symbiotically associated fungi with that of roots of the higher plants. The main role is to improve the uptake of water and the nutrients present in the soil, where the spore of this mycorrhiza, once it comes in contact with that of the epidermis of the root of the higher plant, like how we studied that of nodulation, how actually it happens. In the same way, even this mycorrhiza also has an ability of producing certain factors called as lipocyto-oligosaccharides, where this lipocyto-oligosaccharides acts it acts like a substance which initiates the entry of which helps in entry of this particular hyphae of the mycorrhiza into the host cell, epidermal cell, as well as into the cortical cells. Once they enter into the cortical cell, like how it happened in that of a rhizobium, where actually we could see, because of the perception, because of the signaling transduction, especially due to the high frequency of a calcium spiking which happens inside the cell of a host, which reflects in the translation of transcription followed by the translation of the substances which are, or the proteins which are required for the process of the infection. In the same way, here also the lipocyto oligosaccharides which are produced by this mycorrhiza. Once they come in contact with that of a host epidermis, the signaling molecules are sent to the nucleus of the host. At the same time, the high frequency of calcium spiking happens, which leads to the transcription of the proteins which are required for the process of infection, as well as for the process of the formation of the vesicles or arbuscules. With this, the infection can happen, and also the mycelium which is being produced by such mycorrhiza also covers the entire root system of the plants, which helps in the absorption of the nutrition as well as helps in uptake of the water by that of a plant, so that it increases to 100 to 1000 times than that of a normal root. And also the main purpose of having this mycorrhiza is to improve the uptake of the nutrition, especially the NPK and also some of the metal, which they also helps in solubilization, that is hard to capture nutrients can be utilized by the plants because of the presence of such mycorrhiza. So now let us study how to isolate this kind of mycorrhiza. As we all know, this mycorrhiza, especially we are talking about arbuscular mycorrhiza. These mycorrhiza, as we all know, they are found in the soil, that is especially in the rhizosphere soil, as well as they get colonized inside the root system of the plant. So how to isolate these and how to purify these mycorrhiza? So here the rhizosphere soil and the root system of the plant can be collected around 50 to 100 grams of the soil can be collected in around 200 ml of water, and it can be mixed or stirred thoroughly and it has to be left for a while, so that there will be a separation of the soil particles as well as the water. So decant the water which has been separated from that of a soil, decant that into a sieve. See, in this particular image I have shown the series of the sieves, where the sieve pore size can range from 750 micrometers to that of a 50 micrometer. Sieves can be arranged one below the other, and it can be stacked as it has been shown in the image towards that of a right, where you can see the sieves of different pore size. It can be arranged in such a way, and the soil sample, that is the slurry which has been made with that of a water, decant carefully into these sieves. As the pore size decreases, we can see the separation of the different size of the sporocarp as well as the soil particles would have got attached or adhered onto the sieves. Carefully remove the particles which has been stuck on the sieves by collecting those soil sample as well as the particles which has been stuck on each of the sieve. Carefully it has to be taken out, and you can use the wash bottle, you can flush the water so that a jet of water is being allowed to flow onto that. Around 50 ml of water can be used to take out those debris which has been collected, and it has to be centrifuged. It can be centrifuged, collect all the samples which has been attached on each sieves separately by adding water, and centrifuge for 5 minutes at 2000 rpm. Once the centrifugation is over, you could see the debris at the base and the supernatant which you can discard. The supernatant can be discarded and the debris can be collected. Now the debris has some amount of soil particles as well as soil particles, and that of a spores of the mycorrhiza can be found. Not only the mycorrhiza, any other the fungal spores, everything can be found in that particular pellet. Resuspend the pellet with 50% sucrose and centrifuge again for 1 minute at 2000 rpm. At that particular centrifugation process, you can collect the supernatant. The supernatant consists of, because of the addition of sucrose, the spores which are present gets floated, so that in the supernatant you could see the presence of the fungal spores as well as the sporocarp of this arbuscular mycorrhiza. Carefully take out the supernatant and discard the pellet. The supernatant can be washed on 50 micrometer sieve and it can be collected in a petri plate containing filter paper. And later this can be observed under stereo microscope, and you could identify the spores. You can identify these mycorrhiza based on the morphological as well as microscopic characteristic feature of the sporocarp, and you can identify using the appropriate taxonomic keys. So once again I will repeat how actually the isolation of the arbuscular mycorrhiza can be done. This is called as, in general, it is called as sieve and decant method. That is, we are going to use sieve and we are also using a process called as decantation for the separation of the soil particle along with the with that of a spore. So here the soil sample, it is especially the rhizosphere soil, and you can also use some roots also. You can cut or macerate the root system, and you can mix that particular soil sample in water. Mix it thoroughly so that the spores or any fungal hyphae, anything if it is there in the soil, gets separated from that of a soil particle. Leave it for around 15 to 20 minutes or even half an hour. Collect the supernatant. The supernatant which has been formed, that can be decanted or filtered through the series of sieves which ranges from 750 micrometer till 50 micrometer pore size. Later, from each sieve, you can use 250 micrometer sieves, 150, 50 micrometer. Using the particles which has been collected in these particular sieves, collect it, and you can centrifuge for around 5 minutes at 2000 rpm. Discard the supernatant, collect the pellet, resuspend in 50% sucrose. Again centrifuge for 1 minute at 2000 rpm. Collect the supernatant now, since it's a sucrose solution, maybe the spores gets floated. So you can transfer or take out the supernatant. You can place it, you can just filter it using any filtration method, and the filter paper which has been used, that you can place it in a sterile petri plate, and you can observe it under stereo microscope or dissection microscope. Better to go for stereo microscope, and you could see the sporocarp which would have collected on the filter paper. Observe each of the sporocarp morphology, microscopic characteristics can be observed, and using appropriate taxonomic keys we can identify based on their morphological characters, or we can go for any other molecular characterization can also be done. Collect each of the sporocarp and use for the mass production. So this is how the isolation of arbuscular mycorrhiza can be done. These are some of the example microscopic views of various sporocarps of arbuscular mycorrhiza. You could see the variation in their morphology as well as the color of the sporocarp, and the size of the sporocarp varies from one species to the other species. And these are some of the examples of arbuscular mycorrhiza. Some of the very good examples of these, my common examples of arbuscular mycorrhiza are glomus species, Achelospora species. These are some of the common mycorrhiza, and even Gigaspora species, Archaeospora species. These are some of the common examples of arbuscular mycorrhiza. And also these are also some of the example of the mycorrhiza, which have put some of the slides. Again, the common examples, common mycorrhiza which could be found in many of the roots of higher plants or Achelospora glomus species, and these belongs to the glomus as well as Achelospora belongs to the subdivision Zygomycotina, that we have to remember. Now, coming to the mass production of this mycorrhiza, how the mass production can be done. One more thing which we have to remember here is, most of the mycorrhiza, they are found to be strictly symbiont, or they can lead their own life if it is present in the soil. I mean, they cannot be cultured in vitro condition. In artificial media, this arbuscular mycorrhiza cannot be cultivated. Hence, the mass production of this WAM, especially arbuscular mycorrhiza, can be done in following method. The spores which we would have identified can be immersed. The spores can be collected and it can be immersed or treated in a solution containing chloramine T and streptomycin in order to inhibit the growth of bacteria, so that the contamination has to be avoided. That is the reason it has to be treated with appropriate antibiotic, especially chloramine T or streptomycin can be used for 15 minutes. Then wash it with distilled water. If any bacteria are present on the surface of this sporocarp, get eliminated. Such spores are mixed with sterilized soil. The soil, finely sieved soil, has to be sterilized. Into this particular soil, the spores which we have isolated, it is manual isolation that we have to do. It is not by growing like that of bacteria or other fungi, how we grow the pure culture. It is not like that. Once we have isolated the spores or the sporocarp from the soil, manually it has to be taken out, and it can be surface sterilized with appropriate antibiotic, and it can be mixed in sterile soil. And such sterile soil has to be filled in pot, and the seedling, appropriate seedlings. Say for example, we can use any of this based on the host. For example, if I want to use sorghum mycorrhiza for the sorghum, plant the seedling of the sorghum in a sterile soil, and add the mycorrhiza into that pot, and leave it in greenhouse for about 3 to 4 months. In that particular duration, what happened, the sporocarp or the spores which would have inoculated into such pots would have got colonized inside the roots of such host seedling. Finally, after 3 to 4 months, we can collect the soil in the pot along with the roots. Roots are very much important, because inside the roots we can find large amount of the sporocarp. So such soil along with the roots of the host plant is collected, and it is macerated, and it is dried till it attains 5% moisture. The dried soil inoculant mixture is used for field application. So for example, for the production of Rhizobium or Azotobacter or any other bacteria or fungi, we used fermenter or a bioreactor for the mass production. Here, since it cannot be grown in vitro condition, the host plant itself acts like a bioreactor. So the plants can be considered as a bioreactor, that is, we are allowing these spores of the sporocarp to infect the roots, and such roots along with the soil can be taken and it can be used for our application. So once again I will repeat how the mass production of this VAM is done. The spores which we have isolated from the soil has to be collected and it can be treated with the appropriate antibiotic for the removal of the debris. Another thing is, if the bacteria or something is there, may degrade this particular sporocarp. That is the reason better to eliminate even this bacterial cells by treating it with appropriate antibiotic for 15 minutes, and such spores are mixed in sterile soil, and the sterile soil along with the spores are filled in pots, and the seedling of the host has to be transplanted into the pots, and these plants are kept in greenhouse for around 3 to 4 months. In that particular duration, the spores or the sporocarps which we had inoculated will multiply inside the root system of the plant. Finally, such soil along with the root system of the plant can be taken out, and the root system can be macerated and it can be dried until it attains 5% moisture, and such soil sample can be used for the application onto the field. So here in this images we have shown how the mass production of this VAM is done in tanks. The tanks can be constructed like this. These tanks can be filled with sterile soil along with the spores of the arbuscular mycorrhiza, and the seedlings or the seed can also of appropriate host can also be sown in such tanks. So what happened? This mycorrhiza, the spores of the mycorrhiza which are there inside the sterile soil will get colonized inside the roots of such plants. After about 3 to 4 months, you can remove the root system, and the soil can also be used. Macerate the root system well, that is, cut the root system well, and mix along with the soil, dry the soil, and you can pack it and you can dispatch to the farmers for their application. This is about the production of arbuscular mycorrhiza. Then how to apply this arbuscular mycorrhiza onto the field? This fungal inoculant, whichever has been packed and it has been dispatched, has to be diluted in water mixed with seeds to make a pellet. Such seeds can be sown in main field, that is, seed treatment can also be done, or broadcasting, that is, the inoculant can be spread uniformly all over the field. You can mix this particular inoculant even with that of a soil, finely sieved soil, or even the farmyard manure in appropriate ratio, and you can broadcast onto the field. Before plowing, this can be done. Once you are going to spread this arbuscular mycorrhizal biofertilizer onto the field, you can plow it and transplant the seed or the seedling for the purpose of which you are going to use. So the application of this VAM or arbuscular mycorrhiza can be done by seed treatment or directly applying this mycorrhizal biofertilizer, that is, you can mix it with appropriate farmyard manure or the soil in appropriate ratio, and you can spread it uniformly all over the field, and plowing can be done and use that particular field for the purpose. Then the importance of this particular VAM in agriculture. VAM play a major role in agriculture, that is, it helps the plant to uptake more amount of zinc, sulfur, copper, phosphorus, calcium, potassium, iron, manganese, all these macro and micronutrients. VAM also increases the concentration of cytokinins and chlorophyll in the plants. It also reduces the sensitivity of the crop towards the high level salts and heavy metals in the soil, and also it provides the resistance to the plants against various soil borne plant pathogen causing root disease. So that this indicates that this VAM acts like a plant growth promoter. That is, it helps in uptake of many of the micro as well as macronutrients, and also it increases the uptake of the water, mobilizes various nutrients inside the host plant, and also it also helps in increasing the concentration of the cytokinins in the plants, and also it increases the production of chlorophyll pigments in the plants, and also they also found to be sensitive. It reduces the sensitivity of the crop towards the high salt and heavy metal in the soil. That is, they have an ability of reducing the activity of ethylene, which is one of the hormone which causes senescence, aging of the plant. Happens due to the production of the ethylene, because of the, as I had mentioned in my previous class, because of the production of various enzymes, say for example ACC deaminase. Because of the production of this, the ethylene production also reduces. There are some literature which suggests that even this mycorrhiza also has an ability of producing such enzymes, and also they also has an ability of providing the resistance to the plants to various born plant pathogens. That is, they are also found to be used as a biocontrol agent to control the plant pathogens. And also there are some research which suggests that in fumigated soil the plant shows stunted growth. With the use of this VAM, there is a reduction in stunting of the growth of the plant in such soil if the soil has been treated with mycorrhiza. So this is the importance of this mycorrhiza in agriculture. So here in this particular video, all these days we studied about the biofertilizers, the different types of biofertilizers, bacterial, fungal as well as algal biofertilizers we have studied in detail. So in my next slides we are going to study some of the common topics. So for example, we are going to study about the we are going to study some of the general topics with related to that of biofertilizer, which you can expect for about 3 or 5 marks in your main exams. Let us study about them in detail. So let us study about some of the general topics in biofertilizers, which is important for the point of examination. Maybe for 3 or 5 marks they may ask these questions. Carrier based inoculum. So when we were studying about the biofertilizer production, we studied about carrier base. Once the mass production of biofertilizer has been done, we studied that those can be mixed with certain substances. That those substances where we are going to mix this produced biomass into such solid substrate, inert solid substance, they are called as carrier based inoculum. That is called as carrier base. And how to prepare this carrier based inoculum? The different carrier base which we can use, which I had mentioned before also while teaching about the mass production of biofertilizer: peat, lignite, vermiculite, charcoal, pressed mud, farmyard manure and soil mixture can be used as carrier materials. And this neutralized peat or lignite are found to be a better carrier material for biofertilizer production. So what are these carrier base? The material which we are going to use to mix the mass produced the bacteria or the fungal culture, which we are going to mix it, that's called as carrier base, where many substances can be used like peat, lignite, charcoal, pressed mud, farmyard manure can be used, where peat and lignite are found to be the best carrier base or best carrier material for the biofertilizer production. So what are the conditions has to be followed for the process of the selection of proper carrier based material? The carrier material should be cheap in cost, should be locally available, high organic matter content, no toxic chemical, water holding capacity of more than 50%, easy to process. These are some of the points which we have to remember to select a proper carrier material. So once again I will repeat, carrier material or the substances which we are going to use to mix the produced bacterial or the fungal cultures which we are going to use as a biofertilizer. Such substances are called as carrier materials. The ideal carrier material should be cheap in cost and should be easily available. High organic matter it should have, no toxic chemicals, it should have the water holding capacity of more than 50%, and it should be easy to process. So these are some of the points which we have to consider while selecting the carrier material. The best carrier materials are peat and lignite. However, the availability of the peat and lignite is little less. Hence, we can go for even charcoal, pressed mud, farmyard manure can be used as a carrier based. So how to prepare this carrier based inoculum? The carrier material which we have selected has to be powdered, finely powdered, and it should pass through 212 micron IS sieve. IS means International Standard Sieve. So such characteristic feature that should be the size of this carrier material, and the pH of this carrier material should be neutral. We can use calcium carbonate to maintain the pH of the soil. And the neutralized carrier material has to be sterilized in an autoclave to eliminate the contaminant, and the mixing of the carrier and the broth culture has to be done, and finally it has to be packed. So the appropriate carrier material has to be selected, and then it has to be finely powdered, and it has to be neutralized because pH should be neutral, and you can use calcium carbonate can be used for neutralizing. Once the neutralization has been done, it has to be sterilized in an autoclave to eliminate the contaminant, and finally it has to be mixed with the broth culture which has been produced in a bioreactor. It has to be mixed, and finally it has to be packed. So how to prepare this inoculants pack? So once you have selected the carrier base, once you have prepared the carrier base by sieving, neutralizing and sterilization, how to prepare this inoculant? The neutralized sterilized carrier material is spread in a clean, dry, sterile metallic or plastic trays, or can be used, or polythene covers can be spreaded, and it can be this particular carrier base can be spreaded, and the bacterial culture which we have mass produced in a fermenter can be added into this sterilized carrier material, and it has to be mixed by manual. You can use sterile gloves, or even sometime even the mechanical mixer are also available. So such culture suspension is added to the level of 40 to 50% holding capacity depending upon the population. The inoculant packet of 200 grams quantity in polythene bag has to be packed, sealed, and with an electric sealer, and it can be allowed to cure. Before packing, better to spread this particular inoculum, that is carrier base which has been mixed with broth culture, has to be spreaded in a shade or in a room, dried for 2 to 3 days. That particular process is called as curing. That is, curing can be done by spreading the inoculant on a clean floor or a polythene sheet, keeping in a open or shallow tubs or trays with polythene covering for 2 to 3 days at room temperature before packing. That particular process of drying is called as curing. Once it has been dried, it can be packed in a polythene bag. Each bag, a polythene car of 200 grams each, and it has to be sealed thoroughly. with electric sealer. So this is how the inoculants are packed. For the purpose of packing, we are going to use polythene bag. There are certain specifications which we have to follow for the usage of this polythene bag. Polythene bag should be of low density grade. The thickness of the bag should be around 50 to 75 microns. Each packet, this you have to remember, each packet should be marketed with the name of the manufacturer. Manufacturer's name has to be mentioned, name of the product, strain number, the crop to which recommended, method of inoculation, date of manufacture, batch number, date of expiry, price, full address of manufacturers, and storage instructions has to be mentioned on this polythene bag. As I said, choose appropriate carrier base, mix, sterilize this carrier base, neutralize and mix with the appropriate inoculum, cure it, and it has to be packed in polythene bags. Polythene bags should be, there are some specification, it should be of low density grade and the thickness should be 50 to 75 microns, and on the polythene bag or the polythene cover, these are the following things which has to be labeled. That is, first, name of the manufacturer, name of the product. So for example, if it is a Rhizobium biofertilizer, name it, strain number, if there are any strains of Rhizobium, that has to be named, the crop to which it is recommended. For example, if that Rhizobium is only for groundnuts, name the crop to which we can use that. Mention the inoculation, method of inoculation, mention the method of inoculation, how actually you can do it, either a seed treatment or a seedling treatment or any other ways of inoculation, it has to be mentioned. Date of manufacturer, batch number, date of expiry, price, full address of the manufacturers, and storage instructions, whether it has to be stored in cold or it has to be cold in dark, any such instructions if you have to mention has to be well mentioned on the polythene bag. It has to be printed properly. So that is one QC which you have to follow. And how to store this biofertilizer packet. Biofertilizer packet which has been packed should be stored usually in cool place, away from the direct heat or direct sunlight. Packet may be stored at room temperature or in cold condition, especially 4 degrees Celsius is preferred. The population of the inoculant in a carrier inoculant packet may be determined at 15 days intervals. Each 15 days QC has to be followed. Proper quality control has to be done by sampling. There should be more than 10 to the power of, remember this is not 109, it is 10 to the power of 9 cells per gram of inoculant at the time of preparation, and 10 to the power of 7 cells on dry weight. That particular inoculum size, the number of bacterial cell count should be there before the expiry date. 10 to the power of 9, ranging from 9 to 10 to the power of 7 cells per gram of on dry weight has to be there before the date of expiry. As the date of expiry, the days increases, the number of cells decreases. That is the reason at the time of packing this biofertilizer, the cell count should be 10 to the power of 9. Before the date of expiry, it can reach 10 to the power of cell. If it is less than 10 to the power of 7 cell, it is not according to the Indian standard. So this is about the storage of biofertilizer and the specification of polythene bags. So we know the biofertilizers based on the carrier base, based on whether they are liquid or a solid, it can be classified as carrier based inoculum or liquid based inoculum. If it is in the form of broth, it's called as liquid based. If it is in the form of solid. That is, if you are using any carrier material, that is be it lignite, charcoal, or farmyard manure, or any other things for mixing the bacterial culture, then it is called as carrier based inoculum. If not, if it is just the broth, it is called as liquid biofertilizers. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of this liquid as well as carrier based biofertilizers? Carrier based biofertilizers, they are cheap and easy to produce, less investment. Whereas liquid biofertilizer, it has long shelf life and also easy to produce, temperature tolerant, high cell count, contamination free, because in carrier base we will mix it with appropriate carrier material and we are going to allow it for curing and all. During the process of curing, the chances of contamination is more. So whereas here from the fermenter, just you are packing onto such bottles and you are going to dispatch. So the contamination, chances of contamination in liquid biofertilizers are very less and they are more effective and the cell count is high. Whereas in case of carrier base, the cell count decreases as the date of manufacturing date is more than when, if it comes to the date of expiry, the cell count decreases. Whereas here the cell count is high. The disadvantages of this carrier based is low shelf life, temperature sensitive, contamination prone, low cell count, less effective, automation difficult. Whereas liquid biofertilizer, they are they are for the production requires more cost, higher investment for the production unit. So these are some of the advantages and disadvantages of carrier based and liquid biofertilizers. And coming to the quality control of this biofertilizer, this is the table which represents the according to the Indian standard specification for different biofertilizer for Rhizobium, Azotobacter, Azospirillum and phosphate solubilizing mycorrhiza. This chart suggests that this is based on the carrier base, the base which we are going to use according to this Indian standard for base, carrier base, the specification or this. For Rhizobium, the cell count at the time of manufacture can be 10 to the power of 7 cells per gram. Likewise for Azotobacter, 10 to the power of 6, Azospirillum 10 to the power of 7 and phosphate solubilizer 10 to the power of 8 cells per ml. That is the specification according to the Indian standard, the number of cells at the time of manufacture, and the contamination nil at 10 to the power of 5 dilution, nil at 10 to the power of 5 dilution, and for phosphate solubilizer there should be no contamination even at 10 to the power of 6 dilution. The expiry date for all this should be at till 6 months. There should be no other contamination, or the shelf life should be till 6 months. Expiry period is 6 months, and the pH for all this biofertilizer should be 6.5 to 7.5 is the pH range, and the carrier should pass through, that is the size of the soil, the carrier base which we are going to use. For Rhizobium, it should be 150 to 212 micron international standard sieve. It should pass through that particular sieve. Likewise Azotobacter 106 micron. Likewise Azospirillum also 106, and phosphate solubilizer 106 micron international standard sieve has to be used. And other specification, that is Rhizobium should show positive for nodulation test, and Azotobacter minimum amount of nitrogen fixation not less than 5 milligrams per gram of sucrose which it utilizes. That specification should Azotobacter should have. Azospirillum should form a dense white pellicle mass in nitrogen free broth at 10 to the power of 7 dilution also. Phosphate solubilizer should show the phosphate solubilization zone at least 12 mm in tricalcium phosphate medium at 10 to the power of 5 dilution. So these are some of the specification required according to Indian standard for a proper to call it as a proper biofertilizer. These quality control QC has to be followed according to Indian standard. Then coming to the production of this biofertilizer in India, carrier-based biofertilizers, if we are going to talk about the Karnataka is producing around 20% of the biofertilizer which are carrier-based, and this is followed by Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, whereas liquid biofertilizer, Gujarat is producing maximum amount of liquid biofertilizer, and this is followed by Maharashtra. In Karnataka, the production of liquid biofertilizer is comparatively less. Still we are following this carrier based biofertilizer according to this particular statistics which was taken. And these are some of the commercially available biofertilizer and some of the manufacturers of the biofertilizers. So to conclude, biofertilizers are the substances which are made up of microorganism or the product of microorganism or the dormant organism which are helpful to increase the fertility of the soil, either by improving the nitrogen content or by improving the content in phosphorus or the potassium or any other methods. Thus biofertilizers mainly can be classified as bacterial, fungal as well as algal biofertilizer, and also based on the purpose which we are using these microorganisms. There are certain microorganisms which improves the fertility of the soil. There are certain bacteria which improves the solubilization of the phosphorus. Likewise, there are certain microorganisms which also used as plant growth promoters. So in this particular unit, we studied about the isolation of various biofertilizers, starting from bacterial, where you studied about rhizobium as biofertilizer, rhizobium which is a symbiotic bacteria, how to isolate this rhizobium, azospirillum associative nitrogen fixer, and azotobacter free living bacteria, how actually you are going to isolate, identify, mass produce and application of this biofertilizer. And also we studied about blue-green algae, also how this blue-green algae can be isolated and it can be mass produced and how it can be applied. Blue-green algae as well as azolla also we studied. And finally we also studied about phosphate solubilizers, how these phosphate solubilizers are helpful in uptake of this phosphorus, how it can be isolated, and what are the other role of this phosphate solubilizers as PGPRs. And also we studied about mycorrhiza, that is the arbuscular mycorrhiza, how this arbuscular mycorrhiza can be isolated, how it can be mass produced and how it can be applied. And also we studied about in detail about carrier material which we are going to use in carrier based inoculum production, the advantages and disadvantages of this carrier base as well as the liquid base, and quality control, use of appropriate polythene bag and what specification we should have on this polythene bag, how to store the biofertilizers, and finally we also studied about the quality control of various biofertilizers according to Indian standards. So this is about biofertilizer in detail. So in my next lecture we are going to study about biopesticides. Thank you for your listening to this particular video lecture. Thank you once again.